In this video, we are going to look at some of the changes which have happened with the new version of Infinity N5. Welcome to the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and in today's video we're going to have a dive into the brand new, all shiny, just released Infinity 5th edition, or N5. If you are new to the game, if you're not familiar with it, this video might be a lot. I'm going to have a lot of assumed knowledge here. This is going to be a run over the top of having been with the PDF for about 2 hours now. I've had a run through, seen what I can see, spotted various bits and pieces that I kind of want to talk about and raise to everyone. But if you're new, if you haven't played the game yet, if you're not sure of the rules, or this kind of stuff, this video may not be for you. There's going to be an awful lot of terms that are very Infinity centric, so just bear that in mind. Maybe have your first couple of games, then come back to this. This is very much one for the veterans. If you are already playing N4 or you've played a previous version of Infinity, this video is very much for you. Also, while we're starting out, please do consider supporting the channel and signing up as a member, because we've got lots more stuff coming with N5. So yeah, you're going to get access to that quicker and some exclusive stuff, and it's all shiny, and it would help me do more of this even quicker. I only had the PDF for 2 hours, but anyway, that's not the point. I'm also going to be looking this way because I'm running from notes, which is not normally my style, but we'll be fine. There's also not going to be any new images on here. I'm not going to be sharing any screen caps or anything like that. So do feel free to stick me in a pocket on some headphones and just listen to me waffle, because that's what we're going to be doing. Let's start with a couple of the first points that are going to be out there in the community. There's two of them. One, yes, this is late. This is nearly a month later than planned. It happens. It's disappointing, but I think we'll all survive, and now we can all finally play our sand traps. So this is amazing. This is good news. Are there the usual errors in spelling, and are some of the sentences a bit clumsy and all that kind of stuff? Yes, there are. There's even some Spanish in there if you look closely enough. I'm not going to really dive into that. I know a lot of people really lose their minds about it because it's not professional and they're proofreading and don't they have blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever, it's fine. This is a version 1 of a living rulebook. This will change, this will get updated. No, it shouldn't have happened. Yes, it has. Yes, CB will probably get on to dealing with it. No, I don't care. So if that's what you came here to say, you're correct. There are spelling mistakes. Great. Let's move on. Let's talk about the changes. If you haven't seen it already, there's a link below to the PDF where you can download a copy of this for yourself. But with that, let's get into it. General stuff to start off with. This is a 191-page PDF. Get comfy, bring tea. As ever with these rule sets from Corvus Belli, what you are looking at is the general rules, and then we start going into the specifics of like movement and combat, and then we go into hacking, and then we go into like equipment and skills and states and weaponry and all this kind of stuff. 191 pages sounds intimidating. The core of the system remains the same. This is still clearly Infinity. There are some things in there that, yeah, we'll get to that in the end. But on the whole, that 191 pages shouldn't be intimidating. If you are a newer player, the core systems are still the same. It's just a lot of options, and that's always been the case with Infinity, so don't be scared of that big fat figure. There's always the joy at the start where they talk about the standard size of games. 300 points apparently takes 90 minutes to play. Not in this man's table ever, to be honest with you, unless it's gone horribly wrong. If you see that as a new player, 300 points is roughly a standard game. 2 hours when you're good. 2.5 to 3 hours when you're learning, maybe even longer. Their estimates of game time are always optimistic. Let's put it that way. So, things that have changed the same. We're still limited to 15 troopers. Which is interesting because a lot of the leaks that we've had, the reveals that we've had with profiles and stuff has shown that heavy infantry especially is getting cheaper. Tags are getting cheaper. So the prices are coming down and the limitations are staying the same. So we're going to see more heavy stuff, I think that's where we're going to be seeing this go, which is interesting. there's a lot of changes to quality of life in the game. Some of them I agree with, some I don't. One of the ones that I don't really get, but fine, is the wound stat on profiles is now Vita, while structure remains the same. Because you do wounds, you don't have wounds on that. I kind of get it, but it was an issue that I never came across. So when you see your stat sheets now for your troopers, they're going to have Vita or V, I can't remember which one it is, on them. It's the same as wounds. Amounts to the same thing. It's just not. We now get a tactical order type. So TAC-aware troopers generate a tactical order, not an irregular order, just to clean those things up and split them out, which makes kind of sense. I will say that a lot of the diagrams have been tidied up in this book, and they're clearer, and some of the examples are much clearer than they used to be. That is nice to see. And there were there were fewer moments where I kind of read something, oh, hang on, you are? A lot of it's clearer, a lot of it's tidier, which is really nice. No pre-measuring remains. I know there's a whole bunch of you out there that are really hoping that this is going to be the edition when it goes. It's not. Sorry, here we are. No pre-measuring remains. Coherency for things like fire teams is checked at the end during the conclusion step of an order, as well as at the start, so you can break at the start and an end. Interestingly, you also check coherency when you're figuring out bonuses for fire teams, even though it says you don't in the coherency rules. It's a little bit of it's one of those ones where I was like, huh? But yeah, coherency is checked at the start and the end, and that does mean that you can move. So let's say your fire team gets shot up and everyone dodges out of the way. You'd end up breaking your fire team by succeeding in a dodge, which happens at the end of that order, which is, yeah, it's one of those things. The rules on transmutation, so switching between a Solus 2 person and a big werewolf, for example, which is something some Ariadne players will enjoy doing. You now have two different ways of placing them. You can place the bases over the top of each other, so you can literally take your little dude and put the big guy over the top of him. Or alternatively, you can actually place them in base-to-base contact. So the werewolf that comes out of the wolf guy, or whatever it is, whatever way you're transmutating, can end up moving and actually ending up in an engaged state. So you can transmutate and get a free move off the back of it, or get yourself into cover or something like that. That is within the rules and is explicitly fine, which is fine. That's what they want to do. That's fair enough. Rerolls are now a thing. There are rerolls inside the game. They can be given by skills, weapons, or equipment. The special die mechanic. I'm not a fan of this one. I'll be straight out. I'm not a fan of it. But if your unit, if your trooper has the skill, or if you're a part of a fire team, unfortunately, or certain weapons, you get a +1 SD. SD, this is important. And you add an extra die into your roll, applying any mods like normal, and then you remove 1 die from the result. I don't get how that works. I like what I've always enjoyed with Infinity is, for the most part, for me, I could track how a skill or an ability translated into a thing in the real world. This I don't get. Your HMG fires 4 shots, but it throws 5 dice, but one of them isn't really real. That sort of disappears. Don't talk about that. I don't get it. But anyway, so special die mechanic, you get the extra dice, you throw it, you then get rid of 1 when you've completed your shot. If you're doing things like Panzerfausts, the +1 SD, you would throw 2 dice, but you'd still only use 1 use of your Panzerfaust. So you won't like throw an extra dice and unload your Panzerfaust. So that's good. If both players have +1 special dice, then the active player discards first, and you can't use it with long skills or things that don't throw dice. So you can't use a special dice with a template and try and crit. Anyway, they put it in there to stop the gaminess and the stupidity, which I appreciate, which is fine. I'm still not sold on that as a mechanic, really. It doesn't really work for me, but I haven't played it yet, so I'm not going to be too over the top. Crits, so values over 20 now wrap around. So with a CC stat of 25, you would now crit on 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I like this. This is really nice because it means you avoid the horrible situation where your close combat specialist goes into close combat with a Muppet and then rolls a 2. And the Muppet rolls a 4 and stabs him to death. Because your close combat specialist would potentially be critting on a 2. So I like that. That feels more thematic. That works a lot better for me. So that's cool. You check, yeah, they've changed the position of zone of control check. You do it during the aero check step. So you can't check your zone of control all the way through your movement and be like, oh, is he in zone of control, to figure out your range bands and stuff, which I've heard people are doing, and it's not nice, so don't do that. You now get to do that during the aero check step, which means that you have made your movement, you have placed your miniature in its final position, and then you can check zone of control from the active miniature outbound. Stops gaminess and stupidity, which is fine. This is good news. Right, movement. Let's get into that. They've actually said in the rules that you're not supposed to do stepped movement. So that is where you go, like, I'm going to move 1 inch and place the miniature, then I'm going to move the next 3 inches and place the miniature, and then another 2 inches and place the miniature. You're supposed to do a single long fluid lift and place and not do the placing along the line. They say it's okay, but you're not supposed to. I can see why. There's greater space for error if you're just moving that 1 inch, that 2 inch, that 3 inch. It's there. You shouldn't, but you can. Prone, you can now go, we're back to N3, so you can go prone at the start or the end of a movement skill. So you can do the running along the wall, diving for the ground, which is great. It's still not a skill, it's still an appendant to a movement skill. So you can do the whole running up the stairs along the wall, shooting, and then going on your belly. It's all very dramatic. We like this. I'm glad we have this one back. Jump is now a long skill that lets you move 6 inches, and you must be able to land fully with your base on a full piece of terrain. You don't get cover when you're doing it. If you declare and can't make it, then you idle, basically. So jumping is now 6 inches. Climbing is also 6 inches. It's also a long skill. It remains a long skill. And you measure from the outer edge and underside of your base. So you have to be able to get the entirety of your base up the wall and up and over and onto a surface that will fully hold that base to be able to do the climb. So that's cool. Combat. Weapons now have a mixed category for weapons that are melee and range, like pistols. That's now a thing. I don't think that was a thing before. If any of these were a thing before, yeah, it could be the case, but to my memory it wasn't. Possibility of survival comes in to replace armor saves. This is good. This is a real good quality of life, because historically, where armor was the only thing where you needed a high number. Everything else was equal to or less. And teaching the game is like, right, everything's equal to or less apart from this thing, and you just have that jarring effect of, right, is this the one I need more then, or is this the one I need? I don't know. It's good they brought it in line, but it is very confusing because we're not damage 15 anymore, we're potential of survival 5. That's bad. No, it's good because they only have 5 or less to survive. Yeah, that's true. It works. I've done it. I've given several demos now with new players, and it really, really works. And there's much smoother transition for players to be like, okay, so I hit on 15 or less, I survive on 5 or less. Works. So that is a really good quality of life, and that's one thing I definitely like about N5. Saving rolls are now called SR. So we have SD, PS, and SR. It's the SD and the SR that's frustrated me. So saving rolls, SR. Why is SR important? Because some weapons give a mod to saving rolls. Like with tags, where they used to have +1 damage, they now have SR -1. So 5 becomes 4. So if you're getting hit by an HMG from a tag, it's not potential of survival 5, it's potential of survival 5 -1 to the saving roll. Why it couldn't have been PS -1, I don't know. I'm sure that maybe there's a reason, maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing something, but why we had to have SD and SR on profiles, I don't get it, because they're both, I think they're both skills, so you're going to end up with SD +1 next to SR -1. That's not ideal. I'd much prefer it as PS -1 because it'd be more consistent, but fine. Guided attacks, you can avoid them with dodge -3, or you can now reset at -3 and lose the targeted state. So you have two options, both of which will cancel the attack if you're getting shot with guided. The attack is the same as before, but only gets the +3 ballistic skill plus range mods. We'll talk about it more in a minute when we get to hacking, but I know people hate guided, and there's this whole stress around guided. I've lost 2 miniatures in 4 years to guided attacks. It's always been a really order-intensive way of getting things off, of like doing your attack. I've never seen it be that much of an issue. I think this is a bit of an overcorrection. I am a Nomad player. I have done, in fact, I've done guided missile with Aleph. Even then, it was iffy. Even then, it was a real kind. Do I want to do this? Oh, if I get it off in ARO, it's kind of okay, but maybe there's normally a better option. But fine. They've corrected it. It's lost +3 of its BS, and as we'll see in a minute, your ability to get the actual targeted state on there has dropped as well with anything with hacking anyway, which was the most common one that a lot of people used. Forward Observer, I don't think was really impacted. Close combat's pretty much the same. If I've missed anything, do say below. Hacking is mostly the same, with some points cleared up with Hollow Mask. Spotlight is now burst 2 and has a potential of survival value, so you can save against it. So again, whereas you used to get Spotlit and you were targeted and that was it, you're now Spotlit, which is a face-to-face roll normally against a reset. And if you succeed, they then get a save, and if they don't save and you get the targeted state, then you have to fire, but you've got less less BS than you had before. So yes, I know, normally hitting very high, but unless they can then dodge or they can reset. So I'm starting to think that it's just not worth using guided weapons, because it's always been order intensive. You know, yes, you're throwing 2 dice with Spotlight, which is good, but they can reset against that, and then they get a save against it. It starts being really, really order intensive and too painful to bother with. I'm not sure that I will, to be honest. But anyway, that's interesting. Let me know what you think. Have they gone far enough with making Spotlight be able to be saved against, and with making or losing 3 of the bonus to the missile, to the guided missile, or guided sniper? You might be a Shaz player. On to ammo and weaponry. Decharges are still AP plus XP. There was a point where a image was going around from Corvus Belli where they were APDA, but they are definitely APXP. However, decharges are now improvised, so in CC they are -6 to the user in CC. So you get a negative mod for sticking decharges to people, which is fair enough. That's going to make it interesting when you need to blow up objectives. If you're getting -6, especially when they have their auto defense, it's going to be almost direct. Okay, new equipment. Disco ball, my days. A disposable 2 Eclipse smoke grenade launcher. That, for reasons best known to Corvus Belli, stays on the table. It deactivates at the end of your states phase, but it remains on the table, and you can reactivate it by a trooper with a deactivator, getting into zone of control and line of fire, spending a short skill to reactivate it with a whip +3 modified by range roll. Fine. I think it's going to be incredibly niche. I mean, Eclipse Smoke is fantastic, it's great, but reactivating it, how many times have you needed to use the smoke? Twice? And also, Disco Ball. There's a wonderful English word, it's twee. It is like a cat with a knitted hat. It's just, it's something your grandma likes. Disco ball, I'm sorry, CB. It's just... I've got a heavy machine gun over here, and over there there's a Muppet with a disco ball. I'm not feeling it. Anyway, as a piece of equipment, it's fine. Having a deactivator that reactivates things is fine, if a little nonsensical, but yeah, it seems incredibly niche and a little bit meh. Armed turrets we now have. That's a new piece of equipment that we've got. This is a deployable total reaction BS-10 turret, so like we used to have in certain missions where you could deploy one. This goes on people and they can deploy it like a mine. The weapon that it's armed with is defined by the profile that you take. So, for example, the Sophatect in LF, who we're going to talk about a lot, she can have a Combi or a Mark 12, which is horrible. So she can just pop down a total reaction Mark 12 with BS-10, which is nice. And they're 2 arm and they're 3 BTS, which is, I mean, it's not awful. If you need to sort of reactivate a disco ball and then plop one of those behind, I mean, it's just not friendly. Yeah. Okay. So that's the armed turrets. Let me go into skills. Right. Discovery is now a basic short skill and not a movement skill. You can still disco shoot, but it removes that issue with terminology, because Discover used to be a movement skill, which is just a bit weird, but now it's just a basic short skill, so it's fine. We now have the ability to request as a skill a speedball. At the start of the game, you can turn a command token into 2 speedball tokens. You can do this and remove 2 orders or hold an extra trooper back. So this happens at the same point where you're taking 2 orders away from your opponent. You can choose to convert a command token into 2 speedball tokens. It doesn't stop you taking the orders away. You can do that and create a speedball. When you want to use it, you place 2 tokens on the board using a combat jump skill with PH14, deploying not in base-to-base contact with a trooper token or anything like that. So you put these 2 markers down. This is an automatic skill, so you don't need to spend an order, but it needs to be your active phase. Then you choose what's in one of the speedballs and you roll for the other one. And any allied trooper can then auto-pick them up by getting to base with them. You don't need to spend a skill to do that, just walk past and up you go. So what do you get? We get a Vita Pack is one of the options, which automatically heals a wound on the carrier in the conclusion step where they are hurt. So you're in a gunfight, you get wounded. At the end of the conclusion step, you take the wound and then the wound comes off automatically and the Vita Pack stops, I assume. Or it can be used on a friendly unit in base-to-base contact with the carrier. So it's just an auto instant wound regeneration, basically. Auto repair is the same, but for structure. Switch on is the same, but it takes out immobilized, isolated, or stunned states. So this is a really great way of, if you get a trooper stunned, you could just go donk, put a box by them, they pick it up, and hey, everything's fine. This is good news. Next up we have Jetpack, which gives a S2 unit a super jump jet propulsion skill. As the name implies, they can suddenly fly around the board. Overkill either reloads all unloaded weapons or equipment on the trooper, like Panzerfaust, mines, pitchers, or gives the next BS attack a saving roll -1 mod to the target. So you can put, like, I don't know where you'd put, the SR -1 is kind of a Hail Mary. I guess it's useful if you don't have anything, if you get overkill as your random roll, I guess it's useful to everybody in that situation, but I think you'd almost always use it for the unloaded. That's where it's really going to shine. Nano Shield gives the carrier a +2 mod on saving rolls in the resolution step of the next order where they're hit. +2 to your armor for 1 set of shots. If you really need to tank a hit, that's the way to do it. And I think that includes BTS attacks too. So that is cool. Right. Special skills. Aerial is new. It's for the aircraft. It's for the vehicles we've got coming up. These chaps can't go prone or into the engaged state. They can't go into silhouette contact with anyone and can't be targeted by guard unless they're unconscious, and they can't do cautious move. So aerial is a whole lot of you can't do stuff because you're flying, which is fair enough. Combat Instinct is a skill which ignores surprise shot. That's its whole thing. Courage remains the same, except it now ignores the retreat condition, which I don't think it did before. That's pretty big. If you've got courage, you don't care about retreat. You just keep on plugging. I kind of like that. The Doctor skill remains the same, but some of them get a built-in reroll with a negative to their whip stat. So this crucially can then be rerolled with a command token, which doesn't get the negative whip. So let's explain that. You get a Doctor with a reroll -3. He has whip 14. He tries to heal somebody on 14 and fails with a 15. So he's failed. You then can reroll at -3. So he's then looking for 11 or less. His normal whip is 14. His reroll stat is -3. So he's then on 11. If you whiff that, you can then spend a command token to re-roll the whip 14 Doctor healing awesomeness. Yeah, so you can re-roll a re-roll, which is absolutely delightful. My dice have already made it clear that they can fail 3 times in a row. That's not a problem. They can take care of that one. That's absolutely fine. But that is quite cool. That is quite funky that you can have a built-in re-roll with certain Doctors. They're that good, but you get that negative mod. I like that. That is a nice one. Fireteam Master lets troopers form a fire team and generate regular orders from guys that wouldn't normally. So think Hungries in Combined Army, and we had one the other day with Kestrel as well. I can't remember what they were called off the top of my head. Jackals? Jackals. They're normally irregular. You can get a dude whose name I've forgotten in the comments. Put him on top of the Jackals in a fire team, and suddenly everybody's generating regular orders, which is pretty cool. Or with Combined Army, it's the Hungries with the Osmat. Fine, that's cool. It's got a name now. Immunity has now been sliced up into 7 different types with subcategories, so there's even more granular options for stuff you can be immune to. Terrific. I mean, immunity is not particularly difficult, but it's more options within more options. Impetuous now has a list of actions you have to do. The first of, if you use the Impetuous order. So the first one is you have to get in base-to-base contact with an enemy troop. The second one is then go directly towards the enemy deployment zone, or move normally if you're already in the enemy deployment zone. So you have to, if you want to use your Impetuous order, and it's possible to get into base-to-base with an enemy, you have to do that. If you can't do that, you have to go towards the enemy deployment. There is no going towards the closest enemy. No, straight towards the enemy deployment. So that clarifies that. It's also cleared down, you know, various points. You have to use your full movement, for example. You can't double back. All this kind of stuff. It's really slid it down. Yeah, fair enough. I see no real issue with that. The skill limited cover ignores the -3 mod for partial cover, although the mod for saving throws remains. So if you get limited cover, then yeah, or if something has limited cover, then it ignores the -3 mod for partial cover. Martial arts has been reworked. It's kind of similar up to level 3. Level 3 now gives you a special die, so you roll 2 and keep 1. So you still only get 1 attack, but you get 2 chances of making it good. Level 3 gives an extra burst. Sorry, level 4 gives an extra burst. And level 5 gives an extra burst and a special die. So you roll 3 and keep 2 when you get to level 5. Okay. Still don't like special die. Still don't make sense to me, but fine. Not awful. Natural Born Warrior now only ignores the negative close combat mods applied by martial arts, so the attacker still gets their positives. Fine. It does make sense. No cover does what it says. The trooper doesn't get any partial cover mods ever. It's normally with nano screen. That's where we're kind of seeing that. So they've got a force field up. Standing behind a wall doesn't help. Fair enough. Strategic deployment lets the trooper in a fire team deploy the whole fire team as if they had forward deployment plus 4 inches, but the trooper goes down first and must be the fire team leader. So effectively, you buy this dude with strategic deployment and he gets to move the whole fire team up the board. Bonza. We like it. Super jump is now a 6-inch range and a short skill. This means that you can do jump, but you have to land between. So you go 6 inches, land, 6 inches, land. Fine. You can do a long skill super jump, which adds 4 inches to the jump distance, so a full order, and it's 10 inches. Equally fine. Troopers with super jump jet propulsion don't have to go in a line or parabola. They can jump sideways out of a building and back again. So if you've got like a wall here, you can just jump out, shoot, and come back again. So 3 inches and 3 inches, which is cool. I kind of like that. That's kind of funky and thematic. We're enjoying that. Tactical awareness has now been changed, so it now generates tactical order, as we said earlier. Otherwise, that stays the same. TagCom gives units a buff to tags, so they get an extra, I guess, ballistic skill or whatever. 2 tags in the same combat group as the TagCom trooper. Different types of TagCom guys have different mods, and you can apply different mods in the same group. So if one's got +1 BS and one's got +1 Fizz, they can both be applied to all the tags in the same group. But if you have +1 BS and +1 BS, only one of those would apply to the tags in the group. So you don't get to start buffing stupidly all the way. Just don't be silly. Ridiculous. Which is cool. It's kind of like Rem Racer, but for tags. Fair enough. Transmutation has been expanded to bring in escape systems and hatching and all this kind of stuff. It's just tidied up all those different skills into one location. The new transmutation whip one means that you have to pass a whip check to go Hulk mode, basically. You go crazy, and then you change back to the basic profile at the end of the player turn. So you need to whip checks. It's kind of, you need to keep going into Hulk mode at the end of every player turn. Fine. Warhorse replaces veterans, so it ignores retreat, loss of lieutenant, and also for some reason ignores BS attack negative mods. So the guys with BS -3 or whatever, BS attack -3 on their profile, being a warhorse, you care not. Fair enough. Going on to equipment, Albedo now lasts the game and gives a negative mod to MSV shooters. It doesn't block them completely. Okay, it's kind of like mimetism that only affects MSV. Fair enough. Baggage bots have got a nice little glow up. They reload now in zone of control, so you don't have to get up base to base and just ping it out. But also they auto reload troopers in their zone of control during the states phase, which is pretty powerful because you keep them moving up with your Panzerfaust spaffing dudes, and they just automatically reload them at the end of every states phase, which is just badass. Then we have the almost as badly named as Disco Ball Bang Bomb, which is a dodge buff to BS attacks. So when you're being shot at with shooty ones, not with templatey ones, then you get a buff to your dodge because you go poof and pow. Okay. There's now a Cube 2.0. Scratches the back of the brain that I've heard of that before. I think that's an LF. Anyway, that was just mentioned around cubes. Deployable cover lets a unit like a Sophatect and LF deploy a Silhouette 3 piece of cover. There's 2 different types. CF doesn't work for enemies, and the VF doesn't give the -3 to be hit, but gives +6 to saving rolls up to a maximum of 12. So basically, you can choose to have a piece of cover that doesn't work for your enemies but does work for you, or gives you no modifier to be hit, but an extra +3 to your SR, to your saving roll. And it is up to a maximum of 12, so no, Yotam, no. You're not going to stand behind the wall, the tiny little bit of wall, and end up being armed 16. We won't allow it. You're just being stupid. But yeah, so that's kind of cool. Being able to put down deployable cover, and because that's also in the Sophatect as well. I think they can get the turret and the wall, which would be just bonkers. I'm not sure if they can, but that would be cool. Finally, the Sophatect might be useful. Into the command module. As we discussed, you can spend a command token to create 2 speedballs. The rest is pretty much as is. Fire teams are much the same, bar the bonuses. As before, you have your different types of fire team that are listed in the Army app. Will be listed in the Army app. At this point, it's still being updated, but later it will be. If you match with keywords, you get more bonuses, but the bonuses have changed. Oh my goodness, right. At level 1, where no one matches, so the different levels, we're going to be talking about a fire team of 5 dudes here. At level 1, everybody has a different keyword. They get activated on a single order. That's what that gives you. At level 2, where at least 2 troopers have a keyword matched, you get +1 special die for shooting. The extra burst is gone from fire teams. RIP. We now have +1 special die. Just an extra die. You discard one, so your HMG is still burst 4, but you get to throw a dice and one of the bullets disappears in the air because it was a bit rubbish. Level 3, with 3 keyword match troopers, you get +3 discover and +1 dodge, and the bits before, so you're activating on one order, and the +1 special die, which is fine. Level 4, so 4 match troopers, you get +1 BS, so +1 BS, +1 discover, +1 dodge, +1 special die, and everyone activated in the same order. And at level 5, you get the Sixth Sense skill. As ever, this applies to the fire team leader in the active phase and everybody in the reactive phase. Again, this feels like guided missiles to me. This feels like an overcorrection. Will you still use fire teams? Yes, but they just... I feel like somebody went a little bit crazy with the nerf bat on this. This is a bit much for me. I mean, I'm mostly going to be at level 4, but you used to be able to use this to make cheap light infantry potent by getting them that +3 BS, but taking them together and just wow. And you can get the +1 BS, and the +1 burst is gone. Not a huge fan, actually, of that. I'm just not. It just doesn't feel that great for me. Terrain is much the same from what I could see. There's several new weapons. So we're getting to the end now, guys, promise. There's several new weapons. The Cobra pistol, there's multi-versions of the Red Fury and the Spitfire. Shotguns have lost their templates. They gone. Which, in earlier information, they hadn't, but now they have. They left the building. We now have the Burst 2 Spitfire with HMG range bands, which is the Thunderbolt, which is cool, because that kind of has, like, Burst 2, doesn't cost any SWC. Yeah, so that's fine. Much of the rest, from what I could see, remains the same. I didn't go through all the states, because there's so many. Other people, I'm sure, will talk about those if there are any big changes. If you've spotted any, you've mentioned them below. So what's my view? Where are we at with this? Okay. There are some nice touches here. I think it's nice that we're going to get the vehicles. It's nice. The speedball is interesting. I'm not a huge fan of some of it, though. Like I mentioned, Disco Ball just feels a bit meh from my perspective. I'm not really majorly impressed by that. Warhorse also with the ignoring... I mean, I don't get the BS attack negative modifier anyway. Everyone having lots of heavy armor having BS attack -3 never really worked for me anyway. The fluff reason is he's firing off so many rounds. I'm like, yeah, if I'm the target of that, I kind of get that. But if I'm not the target of that and I can see the big guy over there with the machine gun going berserk, I think he's the easier target now. I don't think he's a harder target because he's just going nuts. You're lit up and you just put a bullet in that, it'd be great. It doesn't feel... I can't square that circle that well. So the fact that Warhorse, as was Veteran, ignores that. Also, I'm like, okay, he's experienced. He doesn't care about this. I don't know. Not kind of whelmed. The changes to Super Jump and Jump, fine. They sound good. They actually make them sound more useful. The martial arts rework is cool. I'm still not a huge fan of Special Die. Don't really... Doesn't do it. Old man yells at Cloud. That's what's going on here. Yeah, I think I wasn't sold on Speedball when I first heard about it, but now that I've seen it, actually that kind of works for me. That kind of sounds cool. That is going to ignore, it's going to remove that really, really frustrating moment where you've got somebody blinded that you really needed not to be. You've got somebody immobilized that you really needed not to be. Now you can do something about it. That works for me. I kind of like that. Not without cost, not without risk. You've got to make that PH-14 jump. I guess you can buff that with an Evo hacker. Another use for an Evo hacker. I'm here for that. Some of the changes to quality of life work for me. The probability of survival definitely works for me. The changing in terminology to SR mods in the profiles, that doesn't work for me. There should have just been probability of survival mods. I think that it's an overcorrection. I'm going to be unpopular for this one. Hi, I see you. Get ready on the keyboard. The changes to guided attacks, I don't think they were necessary. I think they're an overcorrection. And I think the changes to fire teams is an overcorrection too. I think it was a bit much. But overall, yeah, I'm here for it. I had concerns, I had doubts. I don't now. I like the changes to crits, the crits lapping back round. Suddenly close combat with close combat specialists is a good thing. This makes sense. The debuffing of natural born warriors, so you still get your positives. Your super powerful ninja is still a super powerful ninja, even if the guy in front of him is wise to his tricks. So your natural born warrior doesn't cancel the positive mods to close combat, so you're still lapping around for those crits. I like that. That's good. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think this is good, guys. I think we have interesting times ahead. I think we're going to change a lot because of the changes to the points values for heavy infantry, them coming down, the cap of 15 units still being there. I think it's going to be good. I'm interested. I'm ready to rock and roll. We're going to try and get some battle reports up of this soon. When we've seen all the updates to Army, so look out for that one coming soon. What are your thoughts on this? Is there anything that I've missed? Anything you've seen in the rulebook that really needs to be discussed? Put it in the comments. We will have a conversation. It will be great. Look forward to a review of this coming soon. Thank you so much for your time. As I say, please like, share, subscribe, and become a member. That will help immensely. But aside from that, that's the initial TLDR of N5. Thanks for watching, or just listening, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.